it's very early. So let's start. As it was written in the latest WEF report, the future is not a single fixed path, but a range of possible trajectories, each dependent on the decisions we make today as a global community. Thank you for choosing being here this morning. And I think we can all agree that we are at a critical decision point which path we choose. This event is going to talk about the potential of the bioeconomy, which is a 30 trillion opportunity that is a reality in several nature-rich countries. I am Brazilian from Brazil, have been working on bioeconomy for many, many years, and I know it is possible to transform bioeconomy into the real economy. So since 2024, where the G20 inserted the bioeconomy agenda to be discussed among the largest economies in the world, and the final G20 declaration acknowledged the high-level principles on bioeconomy, this marked the first time the bioeconomy became a focus in a multilateral decision document. This was such an important aspect to help us achieving NDCs and NBSAPs and also national adaptation plans. Last year, who was in Belém? I was. It was a totally different weather. COP30 had dedicated a day for bioeconomy, and countries, several countries, Brazil specifically, but several others, demonstrated the nexus with climate and biodiversity and the potential to contribute to all the agreements we have, the GBS and the Paris Agreement as well. Currently, bioeconomy is valued at 4 or 5 trillion annually, but has this potential of reaching 30 trillion. And I count on you to help us reaching this target in several countries in the world. Bioeconomy is not a new topic. We are not competing with nature positive, circular economy, or whatever we call. We are here talking about an economy that must be positive for nature, climate, and people. So we are also talking about benefit sharing and how we create socio-economic development for communities. Also, it's important to mention that for bioeconomy to work, it must be very aligned with country platforms and national strategies. In a world where geoeconomic confrontation appears as the major risk, more and more bioeconomy can be a country national strategy and an alternative economic model to reconcile development, sustainability with solutions based on nature. This means resilience. We have here Guilherme who will present the Brazil strategy on bioeconomy and everything we have been doing on that, and also the bioeconomy challenge on how several other countries are doing this. I thank you all for being here. This is a conversation, so we want to count on you as well, bring your knowledge and questions. And without further ado, it's my great pleasure to invite André Hoffman, who is hosting us, who is a very busy person, among several other things, is the co-chair of WEF, and accept to be here this morning. Thank you so much. Bit taller, right?
I do it like this, it's easier. Hello, everybody. Good morning and congratulations. You've survived the Wednesday. This is, 7:30 on the Thursday is cruel, and I'm sorry about the day and time. I'm very excited to be here, in particular as my role as co-creator of Intent with my wife, because NatureFinance is doing a job that we wanted to see since a very long time. This is exactly what we've been creating NatureFinance for. How do we create a bioeconomy? How do we realize the original intention of what the economy is about? I don't want to be sort of pedantic, but you know that economy comes the original Greek oikos. Oikos, how do we manage the household? How do we manage the household in a way for the immediate family? And managing nature and using nature as a way to create the ground base of a sustainable economy is such an obvious thing to do, and we failed so often. So for me, as a dinosaur of this sort of event, I've been coming to Davos since 25 years, and I've been talking about conservation and economy since about a quarter of a century before that. It's wonderful to see how not only the COP in Brazil, but also the G20 in South Africa have been able to bring about this, this framing of what does it mean to trade in nature. When I say trade, it's not buying and selling commodities. It's not just doing tourism. It's not just talking about the natural way of bringing money to markets. It's actually creating a dynamic thing which will allow us to not only put a value, but to also realize this value. And I think the meeting of this morning is sensationally important for that. And I'm very grateful that you braved the hill, which is full of ice, which is far away from the center. In a couple of years' time, all this will be entirely mainstream. And we will talk about that like if it was something natural. You cannot make business without nature. And the bioeconomy seems to me a redundant statement. If the economy is not alive, it's not going to survive. So it has to be a bioeconomy. Anyway, enough of my ranting. If anybody can come out of this here today with the intention of really changing something, I would be very grateful. So thank you very much. And I don't know who is the next person to speak. It's you. Sorry, you back to her.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, as the moderator of this debate, I'm going to start sharing with you a little bit of where we are in the bioeconomy international debate and how we reached the bioeconomy challenge last year at COP. First thing some may ask, what is bioeconomy? And what I can guarantee is that there are several definitions. They are very aligned between them, and there's no problem that we don't have a definition, to be very honest, and I hope by the end of this breakfast you will understand the why it doesn't really matter. The concept of, it's actually, what I would like to invite you is to not allow the semantic to detract us from what it means, which is to be an economy, as Andre Hoffman said, that is positive for nature, climate, and people. The concept of bioeconomy, according to literature, has different meanings, depends on underlying worldviews it represents. So if you're talking to academics, research, indigenous people, or local communities, they have different understanding. Brazil brought the concept of social bioeconomy to the G20, for instance, and Finland, for instance, told me, because we were working in G20 as knowledge partners, that they haven't heard about social bioeconomy, and they learned by the Brazilian experience that in Brazil, bioeconomy means to reconcile nature, climate, and people, and development for the communities. We prepared in 2024 for G20 a global bioeconomy stocktake research, showing that more than 60 countries in the world has a bioeconomy strategy or an equivalent of a bioeconomy strategy. So it is a lot. And the G20 countries are largely aligned in their objectives in advancing bioeconomy, despite the different priorities differing depending on the different context. So I will give you more or less three explanations in the literature of what bioeconomy is to kind of demonstrate to you that it really doesn't matter how different they are. So there are concepts that says that bioeconomy is an economic system that uses renewable biological resource to produce goods, service, and energy sustainably and efficiently. Who doesn't agree with that? It represents a shift from traditional linear economy based on fossil fuels and finite raw materials. Who doesn't agree with that? Bioeconomy includes various economic activities such as agriculture, forestry, fishing, food, bioenergy, and biotechnology, such as lab proteins or biopharmaceutics. So when we are talking about bioeconomy, what has in my mind, in the premises, it's this economy that is nature positive, that is circular, and that needs to deliver these positive results. With the high-level principles on bioeconomy, we created a way of reconciling development, sustainability with solutions based on nature. G20 South Africa continued this trajectory, moving forward the principles into action, and they launched the African Finance Bioeconomy Hub, where Dorothy will be explaining to us very soon. And at COP, Brazil launched what we call BAC, the Bioeconomy Challenge, which has the goal of transforming the 10 high-level principles into action, and I will present to you how it works. And primarily, the goal of this bioeconomy challenge is to address 4 main gaps: the absence of international bioeconomy standards, comparable metrics and indicators for measuring impact, and we count on several of you. I'm seeing Tony here, so we count on TNFD, we count on Nature Positive Initiative metrics and others to bring everything we have in the world and try to create metrics that are internationally recognized, so we don't want to reinvent the wheel. The need to expand financing instruments and reduce risks, so how can we turn bioeconomy a profitable investment strategy? And we must address the bioeconomy markets. There are different bioeconomy types. We have nature-intensive bioeconomy. We have bioeconomy that is very technological. We have bioeconomy that relates to what we call the advanced bioeconomy that relates to biopharmaceutics and others. So there are different markets for these different bioeconomy types. And we must deliver the tools to amplify positive impacts for the communities and territories. So, the bioeconomy, I have already mentioned to you, but just so you know, we are talking about different bioeconomy types. They are in different stage and level of investment. What bioeconomy challenge aims to achieve? It aims to help achieving the NDC and BSAPs and NAPs, as I said, but has this potential of 10 trillion by 2030 and 395 million new jobs. It can help us achieving the 1.3 trillion year climate finance gap and also the $200 year by 2030 for biodiversity targets. These are, for those who don't know, the high-level principles on bioeconomy. So all of them are connected to different, to all the agreements we have internationally. So the Paris Agreement, the Global Biodiversity Framework. So the principles, although they are vague and they have to be turned into action, they are related to sustainable development, inclusion and equity, mitigating and adapting to climate, so Paris Agreement, conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, sustainable consumption and production and circularity, science, technology, innovation and traditional knowledge. This number 6 was very hard to reach because it was for the first time that G20 agreed on having this merge, this conciliation between traditional knowledge from indigenous people and community and science and technology, and we still don't know how we're going to do this. But it is a very important topic to be addressed, and this was a very important agenda for several nature-rich countries. A robust and coherent policy framework, sustainability assessment, international cooperation, and this was also very important. In G20, we talked a lot about international cooperation, but be very specific on country context, reality, and needs. So the Bioeconomy Challenge was just launched, so it's still a baby. It is in the strategy phase. We are happy to have your contributions to the planning. And it aims at being small, so we have 4 working groups, and I will explain what is the main goal for each of the working groups. And we expect to have a max of 25 organizations, so it's not something to be huge. And the first one, metrics and indicators, is led by FAO and aims at establishing standardized bioeconomy parameters by turning the principles into specific and measurable metrics and indicators. The market development is led by UNCTAD and wants to create opportunities for bioeconomy market development and expand international trade of bioeconomy goods. I think there are people here that have already registered to these working groups. So in case you want to know more, please contact us. The finance working group is led by IDB, and is going to identify what are the innovative financial solutions capable of mobilizing significant resource and ensuring de-risking mechanisms. And finally, the social bioeconomy working group that wants to ensure just benefit sharing and other positive impacts on territories and communities. The idea of the social bioeconomy was to be a cross-cutting theme, but in the end they created as a working group, and we want to have social bioeconomy aspects in all other 3 working groups. Currently, we have 121 organizations. As I said previously, we don't want to have so many organizations. We want to learn and build from what we already have. We have more than 40 countries represented. As you can see, we are still missing financial institutions. We only have 3. And this initiative, we can have countries joining. So the idea is that the Bioeconomy Challenge continues the work that GIB was doing, the G20 Initiative on Bioeconomy. And we want this to be continued, and we know it's going to be continued next year in UK G20, because they are also working on their bioeconomy strategy. That's it on the Bioeconomy Challenge. Now I'm going to invite our speakers to present their views on what and how they are working with bioeconomy-related topic. I would like to start first with Guilherme, who is the General Coordinator of Sustainable Finance and Bioeconomy in the Brazilian Ministry of Finance. And Guilherme, please, the floor is yours. And if possible, I would like you to present how Brazil is inserting bioeconomy in its national strategy and what are the big wins so far. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So, as Luana pointed out, I'm Guilherme. I'm General Coordinator of Sustainable Finance and Bioeconomy in Brazil. I have 19 years of Ministry of Finance. My 2 major works right now are TFFF, which you may know, and approving a law for payment for environmental services in Brazil. And we also help with the bioeconomy in the Ministry of Finance. I think the first thing regarding the importance of bioeconomy is to make sure that it's a national strategy. And we have that in Brazil. We have an ecological transformation plan, and which is very important. It's led by it's co-led, but it's very, the Ministry of Finance has a very proactive role for the first time. I have 19 years in the Ministry of Finance in Brazil, and I'll tell you a short story. I usually work with financial business, and I was Deputy Secretary for International Affairs for some years. And we were discussing, and the Secretary was traveling, so I was representing the Secretariat in those discussions regarding goals, missions, what the ministry should be doing. And I said to the Executive Secretariat at the time, we should put international negotiations in the agenda of the ministry. It's important for soft power, it's important for Brazil. And the Executive Secretary at the Ministry of Finance back there said, no, here in Brazil, in the Ministry of Finance, you only care about expenditures and revenues. You don't care about much else. So fast forward, now the Ministry of Finance is leading discussions regarding sustainable development. So I think it's a big shift in Brazil. Minister Haddad always say that growth is not a goal. Having sustainable, for this year in Brazil, probably going to have a primary surplus for the first time for the last, I think, 13 years. So having a macroeconomic stability, it is favored, but it's not a goal per se. We need to change the economy. So the goal of the Ministry of Finance is not only to develop Brazil in the macroeconomic sense, but to shift Brazil economy. And bioeconomy is one of the pillars. As Luana has said, in the case of Brazil, bioeconomy also includes gender, includes equality. It's not only related to the environment, but it is a more overarching goal. So we are trying to put that into Brazil. We have a bioeconomic a strategy. We have approved a decree in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So we have a decree listing what are the goals for the bioeconomy in Brazil. We are currently finishing a program which is being discussed with civil society about what should be doing with bioeconomy. It has a lot of access. One of them is metrics, as Luana has also said, metrics and financing, which is very important. So in the case of Brazil, I don't know if everybody knows, last year, at the end of last year, we have approved a decree of a taxonomy, and this taxonomy will have specific goals for bioeconomy. We have the general rules approved. Now we are working on making general principles and specific principles to several sectors, and bioeconomy is one of them. So having specific metrics is very important in the case of bioeconomy, and we are trying to do that, approving the taxonomy. Getting finance, it's also very important. So in the case of Brazil, there is clear in the Ministry of Finance. So we have several ways of reaching. We have a financing hub in the Amazon. It's a bioeconomy hub. It has the involvement of several local banks. In one of the Amazon banks, or state-owned banks that works at the Amazon. We have Banco do Brasil. So we have a bioeconomy hub because it's very important to bring the private market. You cannot only do that using, in the case of the money from the budget. We have, I think everybody knows EcoInvest. EcoInvest is a way of bringing capital market, mixing as a blended finance, as is the case of TFFF, but that's only for Brazil. In the case of EcoInvest, EcoInvest brings capital market with the money of Brazil, with the money of the government of Brazil. And one of the last auctions, actually the last action, was focused on bioeconomy in the Amazon region. So that's a way you can bring private money as well. BNDES has both financed and made some grants to the Amazon. They provided more than 100 million reais, which it's about 15 to 20, depends, 15 to 20 million euros or dollars. Last year to the Amazon, we have an agent that provides financial development and security development, which is called FINEP. FINEP also had a lot of projects related to bioeconomy in Brazil. So we need to bring those finances, and you need to have some metrics. That's what we are working now in the Ministry of Finance. It is a co-led initiative, so the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change is involved. The Ministry of Development is also involved. Both of them have specialized and dedicated coordinations to bioeconomy. So it is a joint effort in Brazil. So we are working to build this bioeconomy challenge, so we can provide the details. This should be approved this year, the new plan, so how we achieve, based on those parameters, basically, regarding the metrics. The new President Lula also always emphasizes the role of multilateralism, so it's important to negotiate. It should not be only done by Brazil. The taxonomy, we hope that can be a taxonomy approved by other countries as well. So if you have a general taxonomy that will facilitate, especially for private partners, so they can provide finance with the same characteristics, with the same standards, they can be considered sustainable, they can be considered to help bioeconomy in all those countries. So having this taxonomy, the same one, it's very important in the case of Brazil. And we hope that with the COP, we have, during COP, we have launched this initiative. In the case of Brazil, it's led more by the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. And here in the Ministry of Finance, we are working together with the Ministry of Climate Change. And we hope that in this year, we have everything in place. We have the taxonomy. As you may know, we are working also on the carbon credits. In Brazil, we have launched last year. And so, I'm sorry. And I want to, thank you, Luana. And I want to talk a little bit also about, just a quick one about TFFF, which is another row. I saw Andreas here. TFF is also related to bioeconomy. I don't know if everybody knows, it's an initiative that aims at paying for conserved hectare, which is it's a way, because Luana was talking how sometimes it's difficult to measure and even classify what bioeconomy is. So TFF has a clever way of doing that. We pay for conserved hectare of standing forest. You don't get into the discussions what is beneath the forest. We know there is biodiversity there. So TFF is a clever way of conserving. It does work together with other initiatives. It doesn't have to substitute anything. We can work with carbon credits. We can work with BNDES providing conservation rules. So one way of leading, and we will also bring in the private sector. In the case of TFFF, $1 of public money will raise $4 in the public sector. And in that case, we can use this, we use satellite images to pay for conserved hectares, and you don't have to get into details about what is the biodiversity, because that can lead some challenges. So we have that thing in Brazil. We have the taxonomy. We have EcoInvest, and we have some FINEP. So is the agency that fosters innovation, as we said. And you have BNDES. So bioeconomy is a reality in Brazil. We are blessed to have the largest rainforest in the world. So we should make that a priority in Brazil, because you probably have seen the report that was launched by the UK regarding how important the forest and climate change is for everybody. In the case of the UK, for safety, for food safety in the UK. So it's a joint effort. We count with everybody's support, public and private. It should not be doing that only by government. It's very important to include civil society in the discussions, how we make plans. In the case of bioeconomy, in the plan in Brazil, we have, I think it was more than 20 civil society organizations providing details to the plan. So I think the main lessons that we get from Brazil is what Luana said. Sometimes you don't have to define what bioeconomy is. We don't have to count biodiversity. You have ways of providing support to bioeconomy without getting into those cumbersome details that sometimes it's very hard to get agreements on. I would say try to bring the private sector together, especially negotiate together. In the case of TFF, we have more than 60 countries. We have joined forces with our fellow countries in Africa, such as DRC was participating in the discussions. We have Indonesia in Asia. So it's very important to get all those countries together. And do not forget about the private market. The countries, the governments alone cannot do, and bioeconomy should be profitable. There's no reason why financing bioeconomy should not be a profitable endeavor. So get together and use the private market as well, which is very important. So I think those are the main messages. And it should be led by the federal government. So it should be stated in the federal government policy, as in the case of Brazil. So it's a joint effort among our ministers. So I would say that's the main lessons we have so far in Brazil.
Thank you so much, Ian. It's very nice that I don't know if you noticed, but we basically have all continents in our table of speakers. So now I'd like to invite Yao Wang, who is the director of the Research Center for Climate and Energy Finance in China, and I would like you to bring your perspective on what would it take to consolidate, a very easy question, and to consolidate and scale bioeconomy markets globally while ensuring resilience, inclusiveness, and competitiveness. So I give you the floor. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Luana, and thank you so much for having me here. First of all, I would like to give a very brief introduction about myself. I come from International Institute of Green Finance at the Central University of Finance and Economics in China. Our institute, IIGF, is a think tank, so we supported, China's policy makers to do sustainable finance research, especially for some, policies and taxonomies. And also we work very closely with financial institutions to help them to do the green transition and also to design green financial instruments. And we will help enterprises. We also help enterprises to improve their ESG performance and to do the ESG information disclosure. And also half of our work is international cooperation. So especially when we help we are working together with PBOC, our central banks. There's because PBOC is a co-chair of the G20 Sustainable Finance Working Group. So also we will do some research for them. And for the theme. We are following the theme we discussed today. I would like to share a clear observation from China regarding sustainable finance, biodiversity finance, and transition finance, and also answer Luana's question. Yeah, I clearly, in China, there are some key points that make China's biodiversity and also nature conservation. Number one is, after COP15 of the Convention on Biodiversity, the awareness, biodiversity awareness within the financial system enhanced greatly. So this is one, that means the awareness improved. Before that, actually, what is nature biodiversity? What's a nature convention? Maybe they will think about when they talk about environmental pollution things, but they do not figure out what is biodiversity. So, but after 2021, the awareness improved a lot. Number two is the comprehensive policy design. China has the characteristics of top-to-down push on sustainable finance, including biodiversity finance. So, from 2014, our central bank, People's Bank of China, is working on the policy design. And in 2016, China PBOC and other 6 ministries introduced a document called the Guideline for Establishing Green Financial System in China. So this is is a guideline for the 10 years. And then there are a lot of things happened, and we set up the National Green Fund, and also we have the taxonomy, Green Finance Taxonomy, and we have a green pilot zone in different local in the local areas, and also we. As the G20 presidency in 2016, we also set up the G20 Green Finance Working Group, and the later is a G20 Sustainable Finance Working Group, and then including taxonomy. Guilherme, you mentioned about Brazil's taxonomy. We always know the definition is very important because that make the market players know what is green. So China also have a national green finance taxonomy. We have a green bond, green loan taxonomy, and last year we finally have a unified green finance taxonomy, and also not only green finance taxonomy after 2021, because the transition for green finance taxonomy is only is green industries. But for those high emitters, so for just like steel, cement, and some other, high emitters. So what this traditional sector when they do transition is the finance should support them. So that's why transition finance, this definition, raised after 2021, and then we will have some sectoral taxonomy, just like steel, coal power, and building materials and agriculture. This is a central level. And then different provinces, in China we have 31 provinces, and some of the provinces, they also have their own transition finance taxonomy. So taxonomy is very important. And then, okay. And the third, I think third is the financial information disclosure and risk assessment, risk management. So also in green and also biodiversity, PBOC require all the branches to push the biodiversity information disclosure and also biodiversity risk management. And the number 5 is the local pilots, I also mentioned. And finally, capacity building is also pushed in central level and also local levels. Okay, I'll stop here. Thank you. Right.
I'm just being strict with time now because we want to have some discussions from the audience. So, Dorothy, I invite you to come here and try to answer our question with a very pragmatic presentation. So, what would it take to consolidate and scale African bioeconomy markets while ensuring resilience, inclusiveness, and competitiveness, showing the African Bioeconomy Hub experience? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and such an absolute pleasure and honor to be here with you all today. Could I have my slides, please? I want to say that we cannot talk about the bioeconomy without speaking of Africa. And I'm not talking Africa from a begging bowl perspective. I'm talking Africa from an opportunities perspective. Surely, by 2050, a quarter of the world's population will be from Africa. What does that mean? We are a critical continent for the bioeconomy transition that we are still looking at. 65% of the world's arable land is in Africa. 30% of species come from Africa. And so when you look at all this, then we cannot talk about the bioeconomy without looking at Africa. And like I said, not from a begging bowl perspective, but from an opportunities perspective. I want to give you, and you can see it on your screen, we talk about a $30 trillion opportunity. Very good. But from Africa, we have a major missed potential. Sadly, less than 10% of Africa's final value from its biomass is captured by African economies. Whatever it is that we even send out, either as raw materials, as genetic materials, we do not get the value, as it were. And so, this is exactly what drove us into setting up this Africa Bioeconomy Finance Hub, which essentially is a G20 bioeconomy steering group initiative. And we have very ambitious targets. We are looking at less than 10%. We are targeting 50% in the coming years. Very ambitious. And if this is ambitious, then it means it needs a strategy. And that strategy that I'm going to talk to you about is actually to speak to you and tell you how can you come to the table, not as people or institutions who are helping, but how can you come to the table and take advantage of the opportunities that our biomass presents globally. Let me go to the next slide. How are we doing this? Could we move to the next slide, please? Good. So what are we doing? We are, like I said, setting up the Africa Bioeconomy Finance Hub. Allow me, because I know most of you will read this. Please, let's go back to the previous slide. I don't want you to read this fast, but let me just speak through, then I'll come to this slide. So within the Africa Bioeconomy Finance Hub, what are we trying to do? We are, oh, it's here. Why am I disturbing you? Okay, thank you. Within the Africa Bioeconomy Finance Hub, we are looking at 4 things. And these 4 things, I believe in what you do, you actually face them on a day-to-day. 1, what we always forget, and very important, capacity. I can tell you, and I really like, Luana, what you said. Bioeconomy has many different definitions. But now when you're talking to businesses and enterprises, what does it mean? More importantly, when you're talking to financial institutions, to investors who need to invest in the bioeconomy, what does it mean? 1, half the time they don't have the data, they don't have the track record to invest. Many of these businesses, unfortunately, in my continent, are small cottage, it's a small cottage industry. And that is a big problem. Does that mean there are no mechanisms to aggregate these businesses, to aggregate these enterprises, to get the scale that is required that an international investor would have appetite for? It doesn't mean that. And so what we are working on through the hub is working on policy incentives, which are very important. And very glad that the G20 Bioeconomy Finance Group has done significant work. And very glad, of course, drawing from Brazil, who have gone ahead and learning from what has been done before. Capacity, like I said, very important. Speaking to financial institutions, speaking and literally building capacity of investors, building capacity of these bioeconomy enterprises for them to get to the place where they can get to financial close, to get to investor readiness, to move from these cottage industries, from these hobbies that they currently mostly are, to see the bigger picture and the bigger value and their contribution to the continent and the global economy. The other thing is data and metrics. Big piece, and so glad about the work that FAO is doing. I think it has been mentioned today. How can we actually now drive that into core data and metrics that can give decision-relevant data to investors? That's another piece that the Bioeconomy Finance Hub is doing. And finally, we are looking at one thing, which is investment catalyzation and pipeline generation. That is also an area of big support. 1 minute on to the next slide, which is, I think, very important, and I can move it. I know Luana is looking at me. I wish I had. Please change it for me very quickly. Yeah, I will, no, go back. So what are we doing? We have identified a number of priority areas. We have a team on board. We've gotten some funding to actually get a team on board to support us on identifying priority sectors. 2 of these have already been identified. Regenerative forests, regenerative agriculture, sustainable forests. I talked about 65% of the world's arable land being in Africa. I talked about 70% of Africa relying on woodlands and forests. So that's a big area for us. The other one is DSI, digital sequencing information. The use of the aspect on genetic resources. Like I said, 20%, 25% of species coming from Africa, and saying, how can we actually be ready? There's a Kali Fund, a lot has been done, a lot of discussions, yes, but even just away from the Kali Fund, how can we benefit from these genetic resources that come from us? We don't have the databases. I will disappoint you. There are only 3 nodes in the world. Africa doesn't have one. So how will we benefit if we cannot even get these genetic resources out into or from a database? We're also looking at financial readiness, the financial sector. How do we get MDBs within the continent? How do we get financial institutions within the continent to invest or to see the value of investing on DSI from a registry's perspective, from everything, biotechnology, etc. that is needed? And even into the enterprises, you'll hear Akim talking today. How do we get them to see the value of these genetic resources? And then we are looking at early pilots to test. What am I asking of you? Engage with us. We are ready. We have the opportunities. We have huge ambitions. We have potential, but we need partners who will come to us at a table, sit with us at the table and see how to derive these opportunities. We want to shape the global DSI system. We can because we are able to. Thank you very much and hope to engage further.
Thank you so much for this amazing presentation and presence and work you have been doing. And although you haven't mentioned this, what? I was just going to say that Global South and IPLC, they always say in our experience in G20 and others that they want to be in the driver's seat. So we want to engage with them, and they also have to make part of decision-making process and not just being consulted about what is happening and what we are deciding. So without more words, I'd like to invite Akin, who is the CEO of, sorry, because in Brazil we never say the surname, I'm sorry. So Akin Dauda, CEO of Moana. And as a bioeconomy business, what practical solutions can help you achieve the growth and scale what you're looking for? Thank you.
I'm just going to hold it, right? Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. And it's quite challenging to speak after Dorothy, especially, and all the previous speakers. So I'm Akim Dauda. I work at the intersection of market, nature, technology, and science. I work on biological materials from biodiversity-rich countries. But maybe quickly tell you how I came to this and my background. For 5 years, I've been the CEO of the Gabonese Sovereign Wealth Fund. And basically, we had the mandate for the monetization of Gabon's carbon credit and monetization of Gabon's biodiversity and creating the bioeconomy. I'm going to quickly tell a story, and excuse me for those who already heard the story. A couple of years ago, I had the chance to do a visit in the hinterland with our previous former president. And Gabon has always, so I'm looking at the time, has always been priding itself on the conservation aspect because we've been implementing groundbreaking policies in terms of conservation. So one of the results is like we have the largest population of elephant forest on the African continent. And it has always been an element of pride. So we do that visit in that village, and we see that elder who comes to the president and is like, Mr. President, we heard that you pass a law to further protect the elephant, which is really good, but who's protecting us? They destroy our crops, our kids go to bed hungry, we fear for our lives. So if you love those elephants so much, next election, ask them to vote for you. So just to share the pressure and the challenges that leaders of biodiversity-rich countries face when we talk about meeting NDCs or meeting the commitment in terms of biodiversity preservation. So the work that we do in Moana, basically, it's leveraging genetic material on the African continent. How are we going from the forest to the lab, from the lab to the shelves? And one of the points that Dorothy mentioned when we talk about DSI, one of the challenges in scaling bioeconomy, at least on the African continent, we have the issue of origin. When we say origin is, where is it? Who does it belong to? Who gives the right? What is the benefit sharing behind it? The second element is the element around data reliability. The third one is around performance verification. And the last one is around benefit sharing. What is the benefit sharing that is put in place so that Africa move from still being that continent of providing raw material, but actually the continent that actually participate in the value creation? Because the challenge that we're facing now is we do see the value in the bioeconomy, but the value doesn't flow through the system. The value is being captured downstream, where we have the IP in the lab when we create the products, but we have a leakage on the upstream at the origin, and the community and the ecosystem. And when we also talk about, how do you call it? When we talk about indigenous knowledge. So what system are we building? And that's one of the company we're creating, because I didn't mention it, but Luana is a venture studio. And one of the company that we're creating in PPPs with some of the countries in the Congo Basin is a platform to ensure that we can, at the origin, capture the origin certification of our genetic material. Second, we can encode the benefit sharing rule. And third, via blockchain, and we can have a full traceability of the genetic material from the forest till the last product that is created, with a royalty embedded into it. Because the challenge here that we're seeing is the growing, especially when we talk about genetic material, is the growing risk of biopiracy. Real quick. So talking about what can scale, because the problem, and Dorothy mentioned, is moving from these bespoke transactions to having a platform or an infrastructure that help you repeatedly build those transactions and go at scale. So by building this, we really hope that we will be able to not replicate, when it comes to genetic material, those extractive models that we've been replicating when we're talking about fossil fuel, timber, or minerals in Africa, and ensuring that the African continent is not just a provider, but a full participant in the value that is created. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know you're eager to ask questions. This is going to happen very soon. I would like to invite now Michelle Ruiz, who is the founder and CEO of Hive. And I would like you to share with us what are the key bottlenecks currently limiting the scaling up of the private finance into bioeconomy. Very easy question as well. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle, and I am the CEO and founder of Hive. We are one of the technology pioneers with the forum here in Davos this year. The company takes wasted food at the food processing factory level and uses a thermochemical refining process to turn waste biomass into high purity, high performance ingredients for the food industry. Let's see, where's that clicker? You know, we talked a lot about how often we have resources that are coming from nature, but we don't utilize them in the best way. And so I wanted to add a perspective specifically around food waste. So let's paint the big picture. There's 4 billion tons of plant waste that is generated on our planet every single year. And it's not used. But the carbon content of that amount of plant waste is enough to completely replace the petrochemical sector. So what we're looking at is essentially the equivalent of an oil reservoir above land, wasted. And over 1 billion tons of that plant biomass that's wasted comes from the food system. And I'm talking about on-farm waste and processing waste that never even makes it to the consumer. And the worst part of it all, outside of just leaving opportunity on the table, is that it actually costs food processors and farmers money to get rid of this material. Over 90% of this material is underutilized. So as I mentioned, at Hive, we convert this food processing waste, that's where we're focusing right now, but our technology can use any plant biomass, into ingredients. And I think the core thing here is that we turn something that is a matrix that's not very useful into high purity streams of the core chemicals that make up the plant in the first place. So I wanted to quickly draw back to when has this happened in the past, and when has it created a lot of value for society? Many years ago, when we didn't have electricity yet, we used to use crude oil to extract kerosene to burn in lamps. And then Rockefeller and his team came and they were like, oh my God, this waste, all the other stuff in the crude oil is super expensive and we don't know where to put it. So what if we figure out how to use it? And then they figured out how to use distillation and other refining processes in order to turn every single species of carbon in that soup that is crude oil into high purity streams of each carbon species. And now everything we're touching right now, sometimes everything that we're eating, which is very scary, is coming from the petrochemical sector. this is how refining was invented, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I wanted to say we valorize the entire biomass. We are working primarily right now with California food processors. We're based out of San Francisco. But I will tell you this. Just in the Central Valley of California, which produces most of the vegetables and fruits in the United States, by taking it's honestly surrounding 4 crops, more or less, there is a $5 billion opportunity just in the Central Valley. And this is like a bottoms-up calculation. We have used our technology to figure out, okay, of the stuff that we can make, how much is it gonna cost, which industries are actually gonna buy it, and how much money could we make off of that? And then extrapolated that to, well, how much of this material is available as supply in the Central Valley? $5 billion. What does that mean if we look at the 4 billion tons of biomass that are available in the world? I personally think that we are sitting on an opportunity to move society forward. And what's the most exciting to me about looking at biomass as a resource is that where is the majority of the biomass located? In areas of the world that don't have the ability to extract the value from these materials. And so I think that like leaning into the bioeconomy, leaning into using biomass for something that's like gonna derive a lot of value is going to uplift all of society, especially in farming and rural communities. Lastly, let me see if I have one more here. This is a picture of our products. We are focused right now on 2 different types of applications. Bioactives, so these are like antioxidants, and fiber. And the reason I bring it up is to answer your question, Luana. What are the biggest bottlenecks? So the biggest challenge for valorization of biomass is what can you make of it? Importantly, who wants it? And there's a scientific challenge there because every different type of crop has a different type of fiber, a different type of antioxidants. So they have different properties, and those properties matter because what it means is who are you going to sell it to and what problem are you solving for them? So for us, what we're really focused on outside of building technology is actually building a value chain and finding offtake partners for these ingredients. Today, we're making ingredients, but the materials that can come out of biomass can be high participating inputs into the chemical sector. For example, fermentable sugars come from biomass. And we're plugging right back into the advanced bioeconomy now. Because as we scale our technology, we're going to have abundant amount of fermentable sugars. And in the advanced bioeconomy, that is a feedstock to biotechnology. And where I'm the most excited about that potential is that if you feed sugar to bacteria, that bacteria, we have all of this technology available and existing today, is able to use their metabolism to convert the sugar into literally any chemical compound that today comes from petroleum or from animals. So the bioeconomy, huge opportunity. I think for where we're at today, what we're seeing is that the materials that are coming out of fruit and vegetable waste have the ability to reduce toxic synthetic additives that are added to our foods and personal care products. That's what this is out there to replace, and to increase fiber content in all of the foods that we eat today. So I wanted to leave it with that. Let's get excited about all of the biomass that's available. There's a lot of money to be made and a lot of opportunity for society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now you have seen all bioeconomy types, advanced bioeconomy, nature-intensive bioeconomy, and how cross-cutting they can be. So I'm sure you have questions. We would like to put you on table for discussions, but I would just like to take 1 or 2 questions from the audience in case there is any. So I thought you had questions, but you don't. So then we're going to work on tables. Can we please put the question in the screen? I am the one putting, right? Okay. So remember I explained to you the Bioeconomy Challenge. It is a 3-year initiative that we want to deliver some actionable results. You have heard a lot about all bioeconomy types. I'm sure you see several challenges. I'm sure you, I don't know, may agree or disagree with some of the topics we shared here. So let's cast forward to 2029 when the Bioeconomy Challenge comes to an end, what would transformation in the bioeconomy look like? And what role do you see your organization playing in this sector? We'll have 10 minutes for discussing in groups, and then I would love to hear your thoughts, questions, and challenge for the bioeconomy challenge. Time is going. So, can I have your attention again? That was fast. Thank you very much. What we would love now is to hear from you takeaways, challenge, questions you may have to the speakers, or anything you'd like to share from these group discussions, and how you would like to contribute to the bioeconomy challenge. How do you see this happening from now to 3 years' time? Any volunteer? Well done.
Okay, so this is going to be a set of random thoughts. Not a set of random thoughts, a set of random reflections from what is... I'm going to do poetry, guys. We took as a starting point a provocation that Tony from TNFD had offered us, which was that the transition to solar energy was possible because we had coalesced around an understanding of the cost curve, driving down the cost curve and the economic transition of solar in the energy field. And Tony was suggesting, can we do the same thing on the top 10 bioeconomy bets? So can we coalesce around a shared vision for what does the transformation by 2029 look like, and what is the cost curve driving down, and what are the areas where one's most likely to succeed? That prompted a very vivid discussion around whether we have the conditions of practice for a shared vision of anything. And the answer to which is yes and no. We obviously don't have a shared the framework for a shared multilateral vision, but we do have the opportunity to think together as a coalition of the willing. What would that look like? And transitioning into that conversation, Kate observed that it was very important that the bioeconomy challenge and bioeconomy initiatives were setting out the stall for social values and social inclusion in that. That hasn't necessarily been, that has not been enacted in a policy environment necessarily well in the energy transition, and so there's the opportunity to do something different. And then we were talking specifically about and then we had a conversation about the different types of capital that were available. So Ed works in venture capital, and so is looking, if you like, down the supply chain to see where they think the best bets for the future are going to come. But there are different investors at different scales who are looking up and trying to work out where they're scalable, from demonstrator facility to industrialization are going to come, and they're deploying on a different risk assumption. They're deploying on a different risk appetite for their own investment community. And then we moved on to food. So Freddie's a filmmaker and is particularly focused on what particularly interested in the idea of food waste, and so was very inspired. Michelle. And we were talking particularly about taking a playbook in the food sector as one of the highest costs to the natural world, and taking a playbook on solar innovation from the from Chinese intervention, and thinking about how can we collaborate together as a coalition of the willing to think about food transformation systems. There is a narrative issue here, which is that energy had a viable economic alternative. Food is obviously highly contested in a very inflationary environment, and people are enormously dependent on food until we can feed ourselves with pills and we don't need our body anymore. And so how do we sort out the narrative environment to make food the next transition frontier? Thank you.
I'll just keep things moving. My name is Randall Krantz with the Accountability Accelerator. I won't summarize all of our conversations, but we spoke specifically about a few, I would say, enablers for 2029. One of them was capacity building. There's a lot of skills needed here on all continents to make this happen, and there's going to be a huge need just in the next 3 years to educate people to understand what this conversation that we are having. A second one was around the trade side of things. There's a huge opportunity for trade in this, but it's going to need the guardrails. We spoke a bit about the sustainability of the bioeconomy, how do we avoid making the mistakes that we made with the fossil fuel industry and that we are currently making with the renewables industry? There's a lot of learning to be happening there. And then related to that trade was the generating demand and matching supply and demand is a huge gap that needs to happen. And so there's a lot to be happening there with the traceability, and through all that, ensuring that there can be a premium for premium products rather than just going into warehouses being stocked alongside everything else and going into commodity supply chains. So that was a very quick attempt at a summary of our conversation. So.
I'm glad I didn't have to follow you because you were far more comprehensive than I'm going to be. Mark Corrado with Second Muse, we're a firm that looks at investing in people and planet. We had a couple conversations. I guess the ones I'll quickly highlight was mostly based on a Brazil example, looking at the socio-bioeconomy and how tricky it is to make sure, in the case of the Amazon and Brazil side, that 30 million people are fundamentally part of that conversation, but not keep it in really small plays, right? So the scaling of socio-bioeconomy, is really, really tricky to do, right? And so those 30 million people who are entrepreneurial, maybe in a poor way when it comes to the Amazon, need to be part of the solution from day one. So how do you do that, but also think about scaling? And that could be biopharmaceuticals and so forth. Point two then was that we noticed that when you look at a lot of these, you have to look at a multi-revenue stream idea when you look at bioeconomy. And so if you make all your bet in carbon, obviously there's some great, fantastic examples in Brazil with massive reforestation projects. That is great, but is it the cake or the frosting? And you probably need cake and frosting. And so if you're looking at sustainable extraction or you're looking at other ways, you need to build that revenue stream out from the ground up. So with the big reforestation, could you have a multi-stakeholder always approach where if you can tag them onto a larger finance stream, because they're not going to be able to tap into that finance clearly the way a Mombach or a Regreen or Belterra, if you know that a landscape can do. Finally, we talked a lot about the parallels potentially between renewable energy development 15, 20 years ago and nature-based solutions today. The idea that a PPA was a wonderful way to find your focus and get the finance into it. That maybe the goal originally should be to make these projects bankable in the sense that revenue comes in and out, but maybe not sustainable, because that might be a step too far from day one. So how do you look at and what is akin to a PPA? Again, reforestation became an easier one to see, but there's going to have to be other ones where we figure out how to find some sort of financial anchor to start building out, and I think agroforestry for us in the Brazil context was the one that we were mostly gravitating toward. There's going to have to be 15, 20 other ideas to anchor bioeconomy to local economies. Thanks.
Anybody else? Anyone from this table?
We talked about with Akeem. So Akeem had a really interesting challenge that I wanted to put out into the world. So he was talking about one of the companies that he's incubating has millions, billions?
No, that I'm working.
Oh, that he's working with, has many, many data points on bioactives that come from Africa. And bioactives, for those that don't know, are high in demand. They're like very, very powerful chemicals, and like major corporations are all looking for them. Like we are working with bioactives. It was the red little vial that I showed you. Okay, lots of demand out there. And what they're sitting on is unique bioactives that no one's ever heard of before, but could be very, very powerful. And the key challenge that they're thinking through is like, okay, great. If you find a market for it and people want it, how do you build a business model that routes that financing, like the proceeds, the value, back to the community of origin? And the challenge lies in that you can't patent nature. But we would never know about these bioactives if it wasn't for the intellectual property of the indigenous communities that gave us a hint that those bioactives were there in the first place. So that's it. Very interesting challenge. I don't know the answer, but I'm very curious to keep the conversation going.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share some of my own takeaways and from my experience working with bioeconomy. So what I have heard and what we have been sharing here is that bioeconomy is a reality in several countries with several challenges in terms of scaling it, but this is not impossible at all. And once I was in MDB panel at COP, and I asked these questions to DFIs, and they said, well, we must have a shift, a mindset shift. And I said, okay. But this is also very important, because understanding the timing, the pacing of the bioeconomy, it's very different. And this has also to do with the guarantees and how we manage bioeconomy projects. And when we think about the word economy, economy means how we manage our house, our resource, right? So bioeconomy is basically how we manage our resource in a positive way to nature, climate, and people. And this is not easy. This is not easy because we have to coordinate several aspects. And sometimes, and I heard someone here saying, well, it's very complicated. Well, complicated is different from complex. It is complex, and I couldn't agree more, but we have to make it happen, and we have to make nature count as well. Otherwise, there is no other way. The African Bioeconomy Finance Hub and MOAMA are laying the ground in Africa to channel and catalyze investments into bioeconomy, and I think they have shown like the example of how to make it tangible. And Dorothy forgot mentioning, but she's part of the ANCA, and her part of the working group of finance on the bioeconomy challenge, bringing all this African perspective and all the lessons learned. And I have been to one of the meetings in South Africa. There are several African entrepreneurs, like, starving to have their pilots in business scaling. And as we heard from you, Michelle, you can see how cross-cutting bioeconomy can be, and how dependent on nature biotechnology is also. So what else? I am very happy to have Yang here to share all her China and finance experience, and we will catch up much more and how to make you joining our working group on finance. I'm really looking forward to scaling the potential of the 10% biomass in Africa turning into 90%. And I think that's all for now. I thank you so much for being here, for coming so early and spending the morning with us, and keep in touch. If you want to take part in Bioeconomy Challenge, you can just contact us, and have a wonderful day.